Let's talk about Australia's national security. What if I told you it's facing more threats from more directions than at any other time in its history? Well, that's not a hypothetical. It's the stark reality laid out in the brand new annual report from ASIO, Australia's Security Intelligence Agency. And today, we're going to break down exactly what that means for the country.
Right from the get-go, ASIO's Director General, Mike Burgess, doesn't pull any punches. He calls this a period of strategic surprise and security fragility. I mean, when the top intelligence chief in the country uses language that strong, you know things are serious.
So what does that fragility actually look like on the ground? Well, the report paints a pretty grim picture of a security environment that it calls dynamic, diverse, and, most importantly, degraded.
And here's the bottom line, straight from the report. Australia has never faced so many different threats at this scale, all happening at the same time. It's that sheer complexity that's really changing the game. So, let's dive into the two main threats that ASIO is focused on.
First up, terrorism. Now, the threat itself isn't new, of course, but the report makes it crystal clear that the face of terrorism is changing. It's getting a lot more complicated and way more unpredictable. The official threat level is still sitting at probable, and the Director General says he doesn't see that coming down anytime soon. So what does probable actually mean? Well, it means that security services have credible intelligence showing that there are people out there with both the desire and the ability to carry out an attack in Australia.
And this is where things get really murky. You know the old idea of a terrorist group with a clear, single ideology? That's fading. ASIO is now seeing individuals who basically create their own ideological cocktail, mixing and matching totally contradictory beliefs. Some are even driven by violent extremism with no real ideological at all, and that makes them incredibly difficult to track and predict.
Which, leads to a really important question. If the belief systems are this jumbled, who are the people actually planning these attacks? The answer is probably the single most shocking finding in this entire report. In the last year, every single disrupted terror plot in Australia involved minors or young people. Just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about kids. It points to this deeply, deeply worrying trend of youth radicalization, much of it happening online.
Okay, let's switch gears to the second major threat, which the report says is at extreme levels, and that's espionage and foreign interference. This isn't some spy movie plot. It's happening right now, and it is pervasive.
This image from an ASIO campaign really nails it. Espionage isn't always a big, loud event. It's a hidden threat. It's quiet. It's foreign powers trying to pull the strings from the shadows, to steal our secrets, influence our decisions, and even silence people here who dare to speak out against them. And if you want to put a price tag on that threat, look at this number. $12.5 billion. According to a joint study by ASIO, that's the estimated cost of espionage to the Australian economy in just a single year.
So who are they targeting? Well, it's the big-ticket stuff you'd probably expect, things like our defense secrets, details about the AUKUS Security Pact. But it also gets incredibly personal. Spies are targeting government officials, defense personnel, and even trying to harass and intimidate people in diaspora communities right here on Australian soil. So, in the face of all this, how is ASIO actually fighting back? Well, the report lays out a pretty clear counteroffensive that's happening on a bunch of different fronts.
And the stakes are just unbelievably high. Just take a look at these two examples from the report. In one case, a tip-off from ASIO helped authorities in the U.S. stop a neo-Nazi who was planning a mass shooting. In another, right here at home, they stopped a foreign government's plot to assassinate someone on Australian soil. This is not theoretical stuff. It's real, life-saving intelligence work.
Now, they're not doing this alone, of course. ASIO works hand in glove with its partners in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. That's us, the US, the UK, Canada, and New Zealand. In fact, ASIO recently led a joint Five Eyes report on that very issue of youth radicalization, which just goes to show this is a global problem that needs a whole-of-society response.
And that brings us to what might be the most crucial point in the entire report. ASIO is making it really clear that national security isn't just a job for spies anymore. It has to be a shared responsibility for all Australians.
And it turns out being more public and transparent about these threats actually works. When ASIO shares more information, businesses start to tighten their security. More ordinary people call the National Security Hotline with tips, and they even see a huge surge in people applying for jobs. It just proves that being open builds trust, and more importantly, it builds action. So who are these people at ASIO? Well, the report wants to remind us they aren't characters from a movie. They are, in the Director General's own words, ordinary Australians who do extraordinary things to keep the country safe.
The final message here isn't one of despair, though. It's actually one of cautious optimism. Yes, the threats are real and they are serious, but they are not insurmountable. A probable threat level means we all have to be vigilant, but it absolutely does not mean an attack is inevitable.
And that leads us to the final, really critical question this report leaves us with. It makes it clear that security is everyone's business. So as we finish up here, the question isn't just for ASIO, it's for all of us. If security truly is a shared responsibility, what's our share?